Hey, what's up, guys? This is Garrus, going for a Heartwalk. The purpose of this walk is to talk about why I decided to finally come out of my shell and start sharing my gift with the world. Specifically, why I waited for 23 years to do that. So I've got 7 points here, and we'll just kind of walk through them together. So, first one is perfectionism and overcuration. I have always been a stickler for detail. I can't stop thinking about the quality of things and how to make them the very best they can be. And in music, especially coming up in the time that I did, where like digital creation was really blowing up when I was a kid. So from a very young age, the sky was the limit. It's like you didn't have tape or analog shit to deal with. It was just you and your computer. And the undo button is, is a demon. So I accidentally ended up building a vault instead of a life, creatively speaking, because my feeling was always like, well, if it's not perfect, then I can't put it out. I shouldn't put it out. And so that really held me back for a long time. Point 2, fatherhood. I had an unplanned child, and I'm 7 years down the road from the day I found out, or I guess 7 years and like eight and a half months down the road from the day I found out that we were pregnant. And I wish I could go back and tell, myself at that time a couple things. One, like, you're gonna fucking love it. Oh my God, fatherhood is awesome. And 2, don't slow down on your music. Like, fit it into the cracks, and there will come a time where there'll be a payoff for that. But I will also say that the first 3 years of a child's life are so massively important, and common culture around parenthood is just leans a little bit towards being selfish. It's like, well, I want everything, including the kid, and it's like, I'm sorry, you can't have everything and the kid. You've got to give to the kid. You've got to make sacrifices, oh, hello there, doggy. You've got to make sacrifices for your children. And so, in a way, I don't regret that I, backburned my music, but I don't think that I needed to, which I guess, right, this is a contradiction of myself just a few seconds ago. But 2 things can be true. And that's that, you can make a sacrifice for your child and show up for your child, or children. In my case, I have 2 now. And you can also keep pursuing your passion just, at 10% instead of 85. So, it was life-changing to have kids for me, but it could have been life-changing in a very different way, had I been able to, what's the right way to say it? Had I been able to recognize the perfectionist in me, leaning back on point 1, was like, well, if I can't do it at 100%, I'm not going to do it at all, And that was a mistake. I should have turned it down to 10% and kept going. Point number 3. Teaching is really wonderful. In the same way that you can get lost in music, and I guess this is true about almost every craft in the world. There's so much to get lost in with teaching, and I totally got lost in it. And loved it. I became amazing at making PowerPoints. I went very deep into the psychology of like visuals, because one big thing that I had to do early on was build flashcards for you know, ESL learners here in China. And like that's that's a that's a thing, you know, like you can't just show a kid any old image of any old thing and then expect them to actually cognate, if that's a word, uh, what the hell it is you're trying to teach them, right? And that's one tiny piece of teaching that is so interesting. Like, I built these PowerPoints that were like, I don't know, 400 or 500 slides long. And I built a lot of them for this teaching business that I was working with. And I could spend 20 minutes just thinking about, you know, how to present an image for the word run. And I know that may sound crazy, but, you know, again, being a perfectionist, like you just get so granular, and then you go and test it and you get the results and you're like, oh yeah, okay, let's like whittle this down. But anyways, you know, I started teaching almost a decade ago, maybe exactly a decade ago this October. I moved to China and started teaching, and at first I was an artist that had, you know, was leveraging teaching, but eventually I just sort of became a teacher that was also an artist. And that led to me going down this huge rabbit hole that I'm not going to open up here of creating children's music, which was a blast. And I'll talk about that maybe next time. Point number 4, the yogi path. So I grew up in the church. In my early 20s, I abandoned the church, even though like I was about to become a youth pastor. I dated an atheist for a little while. That got me asking questions and got me a little jaded. And then I just sort of like walked away from faith and spirituality for 3 years. But in that time, ended up with a lot of pain and like came up against all like my childhood trauma and stuff, and like had to, the bill came due, spiritually speaking. And so I had to figure that out. So I went back to Jesus, but with a hell of a lot more questions and an adult mind, you know, and a 3-year break from like the conditioning. And so I started going really deep. And the deeper I went, the more I started to realize that like the Christianity that was served to me in the Bible Belt, while helpful in many ways, was ultimately a container for something much bigger. And that was what led me to yoga, ultimately. And the more texts I read, and the more I learned about the gurus and the yogis, you know, all like chilling in their caves, meditating, drinking a glass of goat's milk every 2 or 3 days, like a consistent thing that kept popping up was like, do not seek fame or notoriety. Like, fuck that shit. And I drank the Kool-Aid on that. I was like, maybe it's actually toxic for me to share my art with the world. Who knows? Maybe that was just a way for me to like justify hiding, justify not answering my calling, justify my perfectionism. I don't really know, but it stuck for quite a long time, until recently, which is why I'm making this video. Number 5, fear of fragmentation. I am a shapeshifter. I have like genre fluidity. I identify as all genres, so to speak. Not literally all, but a lot. When it comes to music, anyway. And I just couldn't stop shapeshifting. Like I got really into folk, right? Like my first favorite artists were like Damien Rice and Alexi Murdoch and David Bazan and Bob Dylan and like lots of Ryan Adams, like lots of like white guys with a guitar kind of vibe, folk Americana. But then that got old. And I was writing a lot, so that's part of why it got old. And then I was in rock, and then I was in electronica, and then I was in all this other stuff. Like, I've made children's music. I've made worship music. I've been down so many paths. I've always been afraid to show myself to the world because I don't, now I kind of know. But I didn't know for so long, how would I actually present all of me to someone, because social media thrives on simplicity, and that's just not me. My life has been very dense, and my musical catalog is very dense. Point number 6. My personal myth was still forming through all this time. I didn't release music for so long because I didn't know or understand my story. I had no personal culture. And something I've been working on a lot lately is having my own cosmology, having my own astrology, having my own lore, basically. And for a long time, that was just a missing piece. And it's not missing anymore. So, cool. And point number 7, this was a little vulnerable for me. Far be it from me to diagnose myself, but I am in the process of trying to figure some stuff out about my inner world when it comes to the brain and chemicals. And something that's come up in the research that I've been doing so far is ADHD in adults. And it really surprised me because ADHD is it's such a, it's a cliche at this point in childcare. My own assistant has been I'm pretty sure this boy has ADHD in my classroom in the past couple months, But for me, and maybe for those of you watching, it was always like that. A phrase you use for kids who are misbehaving or can't sit still. I only recently realized or learned that it can apply to anyone at any age. There's no, we don't have to say this is kids only kind of thing. And that shocked me, but it made a lot of sense out of many things in my life, constantly seeking novelty in music for the sheer stimulation. Lots of patterns and things that I thought oh, maybe I'm just lazy, or I don't know, I'm not disciplined enough. I haven't built the right infrastructure around this thing, whatever it is. No, maybe, like I said, it's a little too early for me to confirm, but it's interesting to think about. And even if it turns out that I don't have ADHD, it would just understanding how I don't know what's the right thing to say, extrapolating from the possibility or extrapolating from that particular problem into my own life has been healing for me, in the sense of maybe there's just a nervous system thing going on that I'm sensitive. I don't know. So those are my 7 points of why it took me 23 years to come out of my shell and start sharing my music and my gift with the world. And tune in next time for a Heartwalk.